Today we're discussing the remainder and factor theorems. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to not read the theorem right now because it's very confusing. I think that I want to walk you through example 1 and then we'll go back and read the remainder theorem. I think it will make a lot more sense. Okay, look at example 1 and it should look familiar to you. If f of x equals 3x to the 4th plus 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus x minus 2, find f of negative 2. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've worked with this functional notation all year. When I tell you to find f of negative 2, isn't that just asking you to input negative 2? So let's go right here actually to method 2. This is called direct substitution. Will you please just input negative 2 in for x? So replace or substitute x with negative 2. Get your worksheet out and do this with me, please. So f of negative 2 equals, input negative 2, please. Now simplify. F of negative 2 equals 8. So in algebra terms, we could say input negative 2, output 8. Now, let me further explain the remainder theorem. Let's go over here to method 1. And let's call this synthetic division substitution. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to before Christmas. If I told you x equals negative 2, we found that because when you set this equal to 0, we were using this factor, x plus 2 equals 0, or this binomial. Technically, we don't know if it's a factor or not. So, we solve for x equals negative 2, and do you remember that we put negative 2 in a half box, dropped all the x's out, skip a line, draw a line. And I encourage you to always label that the add line. So you will have that ingrained in your head. And you will never forget to add these columns. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. This last number is your remainder. Class, do you notice anything kind of interesting about our remainder? Is it the same output number as we found right here? So the remainder theorem on this worksheet says you can use synthetic division substitution to find this output number also, and it happens to be the remainder. So let's move on to example 2 and practice this. If f of x equals 5x cubed plus 2x minus 1, find f of 3. Okay, algebra students, you now have two methods to find f of 3. You can either use direct substitution or you can use synthetic substitution, which is just technically synthetic division. Let's try synthetic substitution. I will say this is a favorite method for most math people. Remember that when you're already told that x equals 3, you do not have to change the sign. So put in whatever this input number is, put that in our half box. Now look at our division. I do not see an x squared. So do I need to put a 0 place filler for x squared? So 0x squared plus 2x minus 1. Three times 7 is 21. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2 is 14. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was pretty quick. Input 3, output 140. Before we go to the back of this worksheet, will you just complete number 1? Use synthetic substitution. So work number 1, just like we did this example right here. Here's the deal though. I've given you 2 different inputs. So I've given you enough room to have a synthetic substitution here and a synthetic substitution here, and you'll find 2 answers. Will you work on that for a second? For a minute, please.